Just a quick note, everybody, before we begin, because I know it's a very stressful time for some spoiler-sensitive folks out there. This is a completely spoiler-free review, and there will be no major plot points revealed, no endgame content revealed, nothing that would ruin your experience whatsoever. I wanted to give you a very thorough review, but one that did not ruin anything about Assassin's Creed Origins. So enjoy, relax, and here we go. After nearly a decade of back-to-back Assassin's Creed releases, Ubisoft decided to take a year off in order to retool, rework, and revitalize their fabled franchise. Was this extra development time enough to help bring about a new era of epic Assassin's action, or is AC Origins just another repetitive release? What's up, everybody? I'm Ghost Robo, and today we're going to talk all about the bold new title about Bayek, Egypt, and Xbox One X. I completed the entirety of Assassin's Creed Origins on Xbox One X. I beat the entire campaign and pushed through a whole lot of the side content. I completed the game around level 33 and then went beyond that to do even more side stuff after the credits ended. So I have a really good grasp on what this game is all about. And as a whole, just kind of an overhead perspective on AC Origins, I was really impressed. I really enjoyed my time with the game. I clocked in around 27, 28 hours, and throughout all of it, I had fun. I feel like AC Origins' greatest strength is its variety and its scope. It provides a very large, very beautiful, and very diverse world. And as part of a franchise that has found many issues with repetitive content, with annoying mission structure, with boring ways to be an assassin, I found that AC Origins really solved a lot of those problems and provided a lot of very cool environments, a lot of very cool scenarios, and side mission content that wasn't dull at all. Now, beyond that, I was looking for AC Origins to resurge the story, the mystery, and the intrigue of Assassin's Creed. And I'm not sure it lived up to that 100%. I did find myself engaged and enthralled with the Egyptian storyline. I think it was great that they picked an entirely new era, an entirely new environment, something that looked vastly different from the past European settings or the past American setting that we have come so accustomed to in this franchise. And I think taking a year off and coming back with something that was familiar would not have been fun. But the fact that they did throw a curveball and give us pyramids and give us tombs and give us whole new swaths of land and the Nile River and all of these animals in a whole lot different way to interact with the environment, really smart on their part. And that really played out nicely. I love the encounters of the animals. I won't spoil some of the better ones, but you're talking fighting against hippos, fighting against lions, fighting against vultures, fighting against hyenas, things that you don't typically get to fight against. And it really does sort of up the ante and always introduce something new. And I think that in a game this large, because here the storyline is massive and it takes a long time to complete it. It's bigger than most of the other, if not all of the other Assassin's Creed campaigns. This world is absolutely massive and the campaign follows suit. So in order to do something that will take you 25 hours to beat, you are going to need to provide the player with a lot of different kinds of content, and they do that so well. Now, the game is tied into much more of an aggressive RPG system this time around, so there is a level for Bayek, for your assassin. And that dictates a lot of this game and a lot of your progress, because characters around the world, enemies around the world, are preset at different levels. It's not one of those cases where they level up with you and it's set to sort of where you're at. There are very distinct areas of the world that you will get absolutely destroyed if you enter too early. In fact, it's a pretty tight little area that you have to operate in. It's about 2 levels, and anything beyond that, if you're level 21, say, and fight someone level 25, that's going to be a near impossible fight to win. I found a couple instances where I was able to overcome 3 levels, but beyond that, not so much, especially when there's more than one opponent. If you're talented, if you're able to be clever and crafty with your dodges and with your attacks, you can take down one enemy or a boss enemy, even if they do have a much bigger health bar or a much bigger attack number. But if it's assaulting a fortress or attacking an area and there are a bunch of guards, a bunch of enemies, it's not going to work. So it brings about a whole different flow and feel to the game, because it's a lot about gaining experience, gaining levels, growing your character via gear upgrades, via weapon equipment, and via crafting. It feels like Ubisoft brought in a lot of elements from Far Cry, from Watch Dogs, from Assassin's Creed, from their franchises, and fit it all in here. But it never feels overwhelming. I found myself very at home in the structure of the game, and it was fun to go out and find new weapons, especially because many of them are tied to side quests. So you'll be able to find legendary weapons tied to these papyrus. That's right? Papyrus? Papyrus? That's okay. Yeah. Tied to these papyrus puzzles, where it's basically an X marks the spot treasure hunt to find a legendary weapon or a legendary piece of gear. And I found those really cool because anytime I felt like, you know what, my weapons, my arsenal is getting a little old, a little tired, I could go and find one of the papyrus puzzles and venture off, grab something really great and bring it back. And there's some really cool statistical nuances to some of the weapons, where all of a sudden you'll gain health back on a kill, or you'll gain adrenaline every time you attack, or things of that sort. And the combat has been completely reworked. We are used to an Assassin's Creed combat system and action system very akin to Batman, very akin to a rhythm-based tap, tap, dodge, tap, tap, defend, counter, counter, defend, all that sort of stuff. Here it is much more Dark Souls-esque. Now, it never fully reaches the potential of a true, third-person action game, but it gets pretty close. And I found myself using the same sort of tactics over and over again, but I think if you did experiment with a lot of different types of weapons, because there are spears, there are swords, there is dual wielding, there are heavy axes, heavy maces, you could probably get a little bit more creative than I personally was. But I found it worked really great to get in there with a medium weapon like a sword, and attack, dodge, attack, dodge, and I didn't use as many of the parries or as many of the combos as maybe the game allows for. Now, there aren't a ton of combos. You aren't able to really sort of craft this attack system a la God of War, Bayonetta, or Devil May Cry. It's nowhere near that level, but I did appreciate the fact that I had more freedom in the fighting, and I found it to be less repetitive and fun throughout. Combat was never something that I dreaded. Rather, I enjoyed mixing it up and seeing how far I could take my talent, especially in the boss battles, in the one-on-one encounters, whether they were out in the world or whether they were in some of the Coliseum/arenas. It was really, really fun to put myself up against a hulking foe or someone with a crazy weapon and see if I could keep pace with their attack routines and with my own dodge routines. So combat has been reworked. The entire character progression system has been reworked, and I think those things are excellent. I think those are great additions, and I hope that they build on and continue those as we go forward. I think it adds a lot to the game and brings substance beyond just stalking and stabbing. There aren't really many annoying missions either, so you're not seeing a lot of tail and listen. You're not seeing a lot of just chase guys across rooftops. In fact, I found myself spending less time on the rooftops here than I would in a traditional Assassin's Creed game. And that's not because the areas are too small or because they're not vertical enough. It's because a lot of the action centers around this combat system, and they thrust you into combative situations far more often, I feel, than maybe you're expecting. You still can do things very stealthy, and they encourage that. And there are a lot of cool encounters where you can go in completely ghost and get out with your treasure or with your assassination and never be seen. But there's also plenty of instances and almost encouragement to battle it out. You have areas where there will be caged animals that will create a lot of chaos. You have areas where you're working with sort of a group of fighters, and they will just start attacking and open things up to a hectic, all-out brawl. And so I feel like this game, Bayek is much more warrior here, and maybe it's fitting based on the story, and I'm not going to go into spoilers, but just keep that in mind as you play the game. Now, the stealth itself and the controls really, I think, work great. For a while, Assassin's Creed was in this awkward position of like a specific button to go down, a specific button to go up. No, that's not how it should go. Now we're really clipping heavily onto things. Now momentum is an issue, and it just didn't feel right. I never felt awkward as Bayek. I felt like I had full control. And mechanically, system-wise, this game is stellar. And you're seeing it get really great reviews across the board, and I feel it's because of these reasons. Now, I've seen some people say that if it was not tied to the Assassin's Creed name, it would be scoring even higher. I don't know if that's the case. I think, again, gameplay-wise, mechanically, system-wise, variety-wise, it is absolutely excellent. And it thrives as it is constantly taking you from this city to that city. And even if they're not as vertical or sometimes as beautiful as things we've seen in Rome or things we've seen in past Assassin's Creed. There is a lot of diversity, and you do have some really epic palaces. You do have some really cool pyramids. You do have some really vast deserts and just a lot of small little villages dotted across the map, and then big cities, and then different style of cities. It's very dense. The game does not have a lot of just, oh, you're going to be, riding your camel for 10 minutes. Let me let you know that you ride a camel in this game much more often than you do a horse, and I bonded quite wonderfully with my camel friend. It was quite the experience, and he's actually pretty darn fast. Your camel cruises along those sandy slopes. I feel where the game falters a little is in sort of that too many cooks in the kitchen and not one defined passionate voice syndrome. We're seeing a game that has a lot of moving pieces, and for the most part, they're all really good moving pieces. But as it comes together, I don't feel like we get too much of a defined voice. I was looking for a stronger plot. I was looking for a far stronger finish. I don't think the ending is all that satisfying. And honestly, I was looking for more mystery and intrigue. I don't want to go too much into what the modern day holds, but I was very let down and disappointed by how little that factors in to the overall game and the overall importance of Assassin's Creed Origins. I know that they did botch some things, and people took a lot of issue with how they handled and concluded the Desmond trilogy. But I liked that initial intrigue, and I loved how in Assassin's Creed 2, my personal favorite game in the franchise, how much mystery they put in there, how much puzzle there was, how much it more was uncovering and unearthing this entire Assassins Templar feud, and kind of digging back through history and seeing how it all fit in, and using sort of your sleuthing skills of the modern era and of you as the player, combined with your character's assassin skills to really take on the world from so many different angles. And this is much more of an action exploration open world game. There isn't anywhere near as much of the puzzle solving. There isn't anywhere near as much of that mystery and intrigue. It's very centered around Bayek and the Egyptian experience, and how different characters from Egyptian history intermingle with one another, and how you as Bayek sort of go from small town support to nationwide known quantity, and then where that takes you. And there are some interesting twists and turns. Bayek and Aya, his wife in the game, have a fantastic relationship. It goes unique places. I think that the entire emotion behind their family is really well realized on screen, and I felt for them. There's definitely some really good moments, especially with family, that they nailed. There's some different, very devastating plot points in the game that were handled, I think, really quite well. But it just doesn't, for me, it didn't fully wow me. And as someone who's very big on single-player storylines, and as someone who's very big on sort of those huge moments, I didn't find myself blown away at any point. I more was steadily and consistently impressed. Now, there definitely are set pieces, and some of them are really cool. There's especially a couple of boss encounters that are very memorable, and even in the opening minutes when you're exploring sort of this treasure-laden room, this tomb for the first time, it's really cool. And there's a specific instance before a big boss battle where you are introduced to how this kind of ties in to the overarching future meets past Assassin's Creed, animus mumbo-jumbo. That was quite the spectacle. But I will say I was let down by the pyramids. In my head, exploring pyramids and climbing them and sliding down them was so freaking epic and exciting and just awe-inspiring. And in practice, it's not really that cool. I would have liked to see more platforming challenge in the game. I feel like this is one of the most automated Assassin's Creed. There really isn't any directive to a lot of the climbing. It kind of just happens, and in some instances that's fantastic, because this is a very big world, and so it'd be annoying if you came across walls or rocks that you just weren't able to ascend. So I will give them a giant thumbs up for making this to be an easily navigable world. I love the fact that I was able to climb basically any surface I came across, and that I wasn't limited by awkward invisible walls or awkward geometry. On the other hand, that creates a very fluid and nearly automatic climbing system, and personally I like a little bit more player control and a little bit more maybe skill required for some of that parkouring, but it controls super well. And so all in all, I think they probably made the right choice. We've seen games like Horizon Zero Dawn, Zelda Breath of the Wild, now Assassin's Creed Origins handle open world navigation in different ways, and I really like the way that Assassin's Creed handles it. Even the boat riding is really fun, and it shows that they are able to do on foot segments, above ground segments, below ground segments, underwater segments, vehicle segments quite well. Some of the side minigames, such as chariot racing and Coliseum fighting, are quite cool, and I really enjoyed those. I found the arenas to be really good uses and tests of your combative skill, and I actually enjoyed those. There's a specific area where you'll do 2-on-2 arena fighting, and that was really freaking fun. And then after you beat the game and kind of progress high in the level cap, you can challenge bosses and go sort of advance throughout the ranks of some of those arena battles, which was what I spent a lot of my post-game time accomplishing. There really are a lot of things to do in this game, whether you are hunting collectibles, whether you're trying to uncover every area, whether you're trying to take down every statue, whether you're trying to upgrade your arsenal, because you can also collect leather from animals, you can collect rocks, you can collect all sorts of things that will allow you to build your breastplate, which is your armor, allow you to build up your quiver and add to how many arrows you can fire, build up your stealth blade to deal more melee damage, build up a number of categories in order to strengthen your character. Now, there still is overall XP, and I found that was mainly what you're worried about, weapons and overall XP, but you can choose to focus on sort of those finer aspects of Bayek as you see fit. There's also tools, a lot of that is here, and the leveling up system has an ability grid, which is pretty fun to use. Now, I found it to be very standard in terms of the things I was acquiring. While I was choosing them at my own free will, they kind of just were things I normally would expect to get in Assassin's Creed. Oh, aerial assassinations, the ability to chain assassinations, the ability now to use sleep darts, the ability to now use fire bombs, the ability to gain more adrenaline and start a battle with adrenaline, because you have this adrenaline meter that gives you a sort of like a super attack that allows you to kind of combo through and finish off foes in combat. And there's some cool ones, a couple, like, oh, when you kill someone in combat, you can then throw their weapon at another incoming attacker, and I like that one a lot, as well as slow down time when you're jumping with the bow and arrow, or grant yourself a couple seconds of slow-mo after a headshot with your bow and arrow. So there are a couple nifty ones, but for the most part, it felt pretty standard, and I didn't find myself having to really make any hard choices. Most of them kind of just came with ease, and you're also acquiring ability points in the world. There are a couple of different tombs and things that will grant you an extra ability point. So they do incentivize exploration. They do incentivize sort of the side tasks really well. I think the two greatest instances of that are the tombs that grant an ability point, and then the papyrus puzzles that grant either rare or a legendary weapon. And I love the fact that a hunt like that is rewarded with something appropriate, as opposed to getting to the end of a pathway and being like, hey, you got some gold, or hey, you found a freaking letter. There definitely are a lot of gold coins and a lot of letters in the game, a lot of written lore, but I'm proud of the team for finding a way to properly reward you for accomplishing some of the tougher or more nuanced tasks. There also are traditional side missions of helping this character and helping that character, but again, I found them to be very varied. And if I have to sort of wrap this up, I would say that my biggest surprise is how they were able, across the course of my 27 hours, to keep things fresh. And I think they deserve a big round of applause for that. We're seeing the game score in the mid-8s, and I think that's right where I would put it as well. It felt like a very strong Assassin's Creed. It felt like one of the better Assassin's Creed. Maybe if you're someone who really enjoys size and scope, maybe if you're someone that really enjoys just that immense world and feeling like you can just really lose yourself in ancient Egypt. I mean, there were areas of the map that I never even uncovered during my 27 hours, because it's not required to go there, but there are side missions there are things to find there are collectibles. And to complete this game at 100% would take ages. I think there is a ton of content here, and from that standpoint, it's very, very successful. And if you're someone who enjoys that kind of game, maybe you would score it even higher. I just found the story, in particular the ending, and sort of a lack of mystery, a lack of intrigue, which are things I associate a lot with Assassin's Creed, to be the reasons why it kept me from saying, wow, this is definitely the best. I think mechanically, system-wise, it probably is the top Assassin's Creed title, but I was looking for a little bit more, like I said, of a focused narrative, of a focused vision, and just a little more passion. There are moments where it feels like systems and cogs and gears all operating, and operating well, but maybe slightly soulless. And it doesn't come across frequently, it doesn't come across throughout. There's just moments where I was like, I wish there was a little bit more of a creative vision here, as opposed to just, hey, this system and this system and this system. But all in all, I really enjoyed my time with Assassin's Creed Origins. I hope that this is a sign of things to come and that they're able to build upon the gains here, and now that this is the new foundation for the franchise, and then they can put in more of that passion, more of that creative vision, more of that charm, and more of that mystique into the next title, and deliver something even greater. Because I like the way that Bayek played, I like the way that they had constant variety, I like the new infusion of RPG elements, character progression, and a revamped combat system. I just want a little more of that secret sauce. I felt like AC Origins doesn't have a lot of secret sauce. It has a lot of really good sauce, but I'm just looking for something that's a little bit more rare. So let me know your take on AC Origins. I'm sure you've seen footage by now. Maybe you've played it. That is mine. I would score it in the mid-8s. I think that's an accomplishment. I think that's good. I think that this was a successful release. If I look at what Assassin's Creed games I've loved, AC2 is where it's at. And since then, it's fallen for me further and further. And AC Origins definitely, I feel, steps things back up to a scale where Origins is a totally must-have game for this holiday season. And to talk a little bit about Xbox One X, the game performed fantastically on that console. Does it do anything that says, wow, this is the next generation of video game hardware? No, but the loads are very fast. The draw distance is great. Couple instances where it was not drawing in things as fast as I would have liked, but for the most part, you got some epic vistas and incredible views where you can see for what feels like miles, and that world is visible throughout. I love that because of the way that they've structured Egypt. You can see so much of it out in the distance, so much. If you climb up to a pyramid or get to a peak, you can really see, oh my gosh, I was just over there and now I'm heading this way. And it's vast and it's gorgeous and it looks great. It's a very crisp game. It's a very pretty game. I still don't know that they do the greatest faces in the world, but environmentally and architecturally, the game is really, really pretty. And I especially appreciated the fast loads and the seamless world. This is something that obviously could not have been done last generation, and while it definitely will be done fine on Xbox One regular and PlayStation 4 regular, it's nice to see even quicker loads and even better performance on Xbox One X. So if you have a chance to play it on Xbox One X, on PC or PS4 Pro, obviously that's the recommended way to go. I really liked playing it in 4K. I thought it looked freaking great, and I had a super good time with it. It was a crazy experience to play so much so fast, and that they were able to keep variety, even though I was playing this back to back to back. I beat the game in 3.5 days. That is super impressive. So round of applause for Ubisoft. Maybe it's not a complete renaissance for Assassin's Creed, but it definitely is a revitalization, and it definitely elevates the game and the franchise to a level that we have been craving for quite some time. So there you have it, Assassin's Creed Origins. Pretty freaking good, a whole lot of variety, an expansive and very impressive environment. Could have used a little more secret sauce, but it set things up very nicely for the future of this franchise, and I think for the future of open world games. This was one of my favorite open world experiences that I've had this generation, and that's saying a lot because boy do we get a bunch of those kinds of games. So let me know your take in the comments below, everybody. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day and enjoying this epic holiday gaming season. Stay tuned for more on Super Mario Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Origins, and the rest of the releases. Until that time, though, everybody, thanks again. Have a fantastic day. I love you. Drink some hot chocolate, and we'll see you all later.